So a subscriber recently asked me for some advice about going to grad school in linguistics, and I thought I'd answer those in this video. So the first question he asked me was, what classes outside of linguistics helped prepare you for this field? I did an undergraduate degree, a double major in both linguistics and philosophy, and the philosophy classes I think really helped. They taught me how to think logically through a problem and recognize common fallacies in thinking. I also was really interested in philosophy of science, so I took a few classes in that, and that was really useful for me when I started thinking about research and what it meant to answer a question scientifically and to prove something as true. So that was really useful, especially if you're doing a PhD. PhD stands for a doctorate of philosophy, and I really do think that at that level you really should be thinking carefully about the philosophy of science behind your field. What's the philosophy of linguistics? What does it mean to do linguistics and research linguistics? So that was really useful for me. Second question was, what classes do I wish I had had more exposure to as an undergrad? There's not a specific answer to this, but in general, departments in linguistics tend to be somewhat insular with what they teach. There are especially two very well-known camps in linguistics called functionalism and generativism or nativism. Professors don't tend to teach outside of that perspective, so it's kind of on the students sometimes to go learn about that. So if you're in a linguistics department, find out which approach your professors do and go learn about the other one. What other online sources do you listen to? I assume podcasts. My two probably favorite podcasts are the History of English Language podcast by Kevin Stroud and Linguistic by Lauren Gown and Gretchen McCulloch. They're both just really fun, very informative podcasts. I love them. Maybe keep an ear out for my own podcast, maybe coming out in the future too. I also am a big fan of the Native Lang videos on YouTube. They're really fun. They're just really well done. And also Rob Words on YouTube is also excellent. What factors should this person take into account when considering between studying what they call formal linguistics and applied linguistics? And so first answer to this question is that that's actually kind of a bad distinction. First off, the distinction in the field tends to be between what's called formal linguistics or generative linguistics or nativist linguistics and functionalist linguistics on the other hand. Functionalist linguistics is every bit as much theoretical and formal as what they tend to call formalist linguistics. It's really just differences in kind of foundational assumptions about how language works. If you're interested in more like a cognitive historical, complex adaptive systems kind of approach to language, you're going to go with the functionalist camp. If you're interested in like a more mathematical algorithmic approach to language, you're going to go with the formalist generativist camp. Do I feel like it's helpful to have a little background in one or more foreign languages to do linguistics? Yes, definitely. And the more experience you get working with actual real language data, the more you realize just like how complex and wonderful language is. It's very humbling, and it also makes, I think, a lot of people, including myself, realize that language isn't always amenable to this very kind of algorithmic, clear distinctions types of approaches to language that I talked about earlier. It really makes you appreciate that language is this messy, social, complex, adaptive system. So I do think that's very important. You don't have to. There are plenty of linguists out there who only know English or only know one language, and they can research lots of languages. I've worked with plenty of languages that I can't speak because it's kind of like, you pick up a grammar of Spanish and read it, and you know lots of things about the grammar of Spanish after that, even though you can't speak it. So that's what a lot of linguists do. And final question is, what are some good books or articles to get a general background in contemporary linguistics? If you're looking for gentle introductions, like general audience, popular science types books, well, I have a lot of those. I have a whole Amazon storefront linked in my bio that you can go see. I have a linguistics starter pack with some popular science books about each of the different subfields. There's lots out there for that. But if you're trying to start getting a little more of a technical deep dive, then you're probably just going to want like an intro level textbook. And the best textbook I would recommend is How Languages Work, edited by Carol Giannetti. It's, I think, the best intro textbook out there. And if you're really starting to dive in and get a little more technical, then you might start getting some handbooks. So they have like the Routledge Handbook of Language Revitalization or the Oxford Handbook of Linguistic Typology sitting right up there. So those handbooks of different topics are just a great way to get an overview of the major issues, problems, kind of latest research in these different subfields of linguistics. And like I said, there's a lot. There's a handbook of morphology, of syntax, of phonology, one for each of the major subfields. So those are my answers to some of the how can I get ready for grad school in linguistics questions. This is actually something I talk to people about a lot. I used to advise a lot of people as they were applying to grad programs. So if that's something that interests people more, let me know. I'd be happy to make more videos about it. I hope it would be really useful information.